I've always loved the art of magic. I had the opportunity to interview one of the top magic historians in the world. If he looks familiar, it might be because he was the historian interviewed for the TV show Mind Freak with Chris Angel. Because my channel is mostly about movies, I tried to have my questions weave magic and movie history. So let's get started. First off, please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Richard Cohn. I'm a performing magician, magic historian. I've been involved with magic most of my life, or what we call magic. I also worked behind the scenes on a lot of major motion pictures and television shows. I'm a member of the Motion Picture Studio Mechanics Local 52 here in New York City.
How did the earliest movies portraying magic change the general public's view of it?
Well, something people need to keep in mind is that at the beginning of motion pictures as we know it, there were quite a few stage magic performers who were actively involved in the making and presenting and promoting of these early films. Initially, motion pictures were considered a really cool magic trick. Pictures that move was a goal of many people for centuries. When it was finally something that was practical, some of the earliest purveyors of motion pictures were the Frenchman Georges Méliès, who had taken over the theater Robert-Houdin in Paris. Vitagraph Studios was founded by two magicians, Albert Smith and Stuart Blackton. And a lot of their early films were trick films, and they were short films. Blackton and Smith used their early films as part of their vaudeville magic show. As time went by, the making of the films proved even more profitable than doing the magic tricks. But both in the United States, Great Britain, France, some of the earliest people promoting and showing motion pictures were people who were making their living as professional magic performers. The early pictures changed the public's perception of magic. This whole concept of trick photography, the ability to shut the camera, move things, made the public not view some of the things they had seen in the past live. The public viewed some of the live things now as, oh, it's just a simple trick, like trick photography. So to some degree, motion pictures stole the fire that magic, conjuring, had before.
In addition to being a magician, Harry Houdini acted in a few silent movies. Please tell me a little about those.
Well, as I mentioned before, some of the early magicians were very interested in films. Houdini was amongst them. He was already a matinee idol, and he saw his appearing in motion pictures as an opportunity to both increase his fame and to make additional money. So he set up a couple of film corporations, Houdini Film Corporation, brought his brother HARDEEN, another magician, in to help run that company. Houdini made a couple of films, mostly serials, where you would go each week and see a new installment. Some of the films that Houdini was involved with were HARDEEN of the Secret Service, The Grimm Game, The Man from Beyond. Houdini's desire to be a film star didn't really pan out. People didn't dig him as much on the movie screen as much as they liked him live in a theater.
Do you know of any classic movies which took inspiration from real-life magicians?
The Wizard of Oz was modeled in the original book by Frank Baum after Harry Keller, who was the Dean of American Magicians and was a mentor to Harry Houdini. A curious thing, Harry Houdini's real name was Eric Weiss. One of the reasons he took the name Harry, in addition to making up his own name of Houdini, he admired the great French magician Robert-Houdin, but he also admired Harry Keller. So that's how Harry Houdini came about, because of his admiration of Harry Keller, who was really the embodiment of a wizard. It had beautiful posters, was quite mysterious, was one of the top theatrical attractions, live attractions in his day. Other famous movies that have involved magicians, of course, the Houdini biopic with Tony Curtis, based on the life of the performer, Harry Houdini. Magicians were also depicted in quite a few other ways in some classic films. There was the Vincent Price vehicle, The Mad Magician. Some of these were based on cliches rather than particular individuals, but those sort of in line with the Mellies films and the early Vitagraph films helped to change the public's perception of magicians. And in a like way, movies kind of made performing live magicians change their style of presentation to coincide with the changes in popular demand that the public put on their entertainment.
Do you see similarities between magic tricks and movies' practical effects?
Absolutely. As I mentioned before, in the early days, magicians were making the films. So they used a lot of practical things to create some of those early film illusions, and those are things that became part of the bag of tricks of directors of photography and directors in movies and TV. Stop action, reverse action. These were tricks that you could now do with a camera. A lot of the early films, we did in-camera effects. In the days before CGI, computer-generated images, a lot of special effects that you would see in a film had to be done in a practical, real way. Yes, some of them could be done as matte shots where you layer in elements. Today, those kind of green screen or other ways of combining different elements together. But in the early days of film, a lot of the special effects were based on magicians' concepts. And also some of the magicians, as film moved on, got more and more involved with the motion picture industry. The clap slate that we all think of with movies, that was invented by the great Leon's son, who became a sound engineer in California. He also is given credit usually for inventing the fishpole boom that the sound department would use. So these were other contributions of magicians. And then in California, quite a few guys became consultants to magic productions. I've done a bit of that myself over the years. Sorcerer's Apprentice, some TV shows, Spin City, where I've been a consultant as well. Some of the great consultants out in the heyday in California, Harry Mendoza was a famous consultant to motion pictures, George Boston. These were very experienced magicians who brought some of their expertise to the behind-the-scenes working. Quite a few major productions in Hollywood.
You were the magic historian interviewed on the TV show Mind Freak with Criss Angel. How did you get involved with that?
I've been a magic historian and on the magic scene for many years. In the case of Criss Angel, I was commissioned by Magic magazine to do a feature article on Criss. Around that time, I was also asked to do a feature article on him for Mayor Yedid's Magic Times Internet Magic magazine. So in interviewing Criss for those articles, we sort of developed a relationship, and then I did a few special projects for Criss with some research into some of the tie-ins that he was doing with some brewing companies and some other things. And that's how I was invited to come out and be the on-air magic historian for a number of episodes of his series Mind Freak.
What do you think of the way magic is portrayed in the media today?
Magic has its ups and downs. Even though I work behind the scenes in motion pictures and television, I don't watch a lot of movies and TV. But my sense is that magic is not regarded in the high way that it was 120 years ago. The perception of magic now by the public, once again, a lot of people use that word magic to refer to balloon modelers or kiddie performers, not necessarily people who are presenting true mysteries or presenting magic on a very high level. So I think that the public at this time doesn't have a high regard for magicians, but I think we're on an upswing. Some TV shows like Penn and Teller's Fool Us, some of the other shows that have been recently in New York, like Darren Brown's show and Derek DelGaudio's show, are raising some elements of the public's perception of magic, and I think we're on an upswing right now. And I think there's kind of a separation going on. Some people, that term magic denotes something for kids. Other people are using terms like illusions or wonders. And maybe these are better terms to separate a higher end of conjuring or legerdemain from just simple party stunts or games or balloon modeling.
Can you share an interesting story you have from working on a movie set?
Well, actually, an interesting story from a television production, something I'd like to share. I spent a number of years working on Spin City, which is a Michael J. Fox show. DreamWorks was the producer. Michael was always very interested in magic. As a matter of fact, his son Sam was taking lessons from Ricky Jay at one point. But one of the episodes of Spin City, the Michael J. Fox character is having a romance with a female magician. We had a couple of other magic folks involved. Stanley Burns, the ventriloquist, brought some pieces in. Bill Schmilk from Wellington Enterprises built some custom stuff. But there was a whole sequence where the female magician that Michael wants to have a date with, she's going to use Michael as an assistant in a sword box. Now, I don't want to go into too much detail about how on a regular film or TV show, there's what we call stand-ins, who, when the lighting is being done and the blocking is being done, the stand-in will take the place of the actor, so that the camera department and the makeup people and the light, they all get a sense of how it's going to look, but the major talent doesn't have to be on set the whole time. Well, when we were doing the setup for this sword box thing, Michael initially said, well, just let my stand-in get in the box and rehearse it. The problem is, it really is a working magic trick. So whoever is in the box that the swords get put into, that person has to have their head up a little bit. They've got to pay attention to where the swords enter so they can avoid them. There's a couple other things that need to be done so that the person who's in the box really has to be the one. So when they started doing this rehearsal like that, and I was one of the lighting people on the show, as well as consultant for the magic, I said, no, you got to get Michael. He's got to get in the box. Because if the stand-in has gone through the 5 or 6 rehearsals and has learned how to sit in the box and turn and pivot himself and what have you, if Michael gets in there without actually having rehearsed it himself, either it's not going to work or he's going to get hurt. So this is a place where acting doesn't work. You've actually got to understand the moves, the logistics, the blocking of the actual magic trick. So that was a genuine story where somebody on set, being me, had to go, no, our traditional filmmaking techniques don't work here because this really is a magic trick. And we did these shows in front of live audiences. There was always like 150, 200 people, live audience in the studio. So when that blade box was done, he really was inside, and those swords really went in. And because it's a live audience, we don't want it to go haywire, and it did. It worked out very well.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, it's a pleasure to participate in this program that combines magic and movies. It's always been a great interest of mine. As a matter of fact, I'm a member of the archive committee of the Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers, and a number of years ago I authored an article for their magazine, the Motion Image Journal, about magicians behind the scenes and some of the early pioneers in magic in the movies. So this has always been a great interest of mine. One of my mentors, Father Cyprian Murray, who is past president of the Society of American Magicians and another well-known magic historian, he always had a great interest in the portrayal of magicians in the cinema. I love all this stuff, both how they're portrayed and also their actual involvement early on. As I mentioned, Houdini, Colonel SELIG from Chicago, who moved to California, had SELIG's Zoo, the original MGM lion. That came out of SELIG's Zoo, which was operated by a magician. So all these links are always there, and I'm always glad to see magic in a movie or participate as a consultant in films and television. And I think we're going to see a new rebirth of interest in magic. Magic at its best is live.
Okay, Richard, I thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with me. To all viewers, I hope you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making it. Please do leave your comments below and let me know what you think. And if you did enjoy it and would like to see more of my videos, please feel free to subscribe. I'd love to have you. Thank you.